A store can sell 480 shirts per week at a price of $10 each, but can only sell 400 shirts per week at a price of $12 each. Part A. Find a linear equation that models the number of shirts demanded per week at price P. Part B. How many shirts would be sold at a price of $15 per week? Alright, so looking at Part A, find a linear equation that models the number of shirts demanded per week at price P. We basically want to think about using the information in the paragraph above to come up with 2 points. And the 2 points would essentially be the dollar amount, $10, for example, right? Comma, the number of shirts sold per week. So here we're putting dollar amounts and then we're putting number of shirts, right? So we'll call this number of shirts. Okay, now the second point would then be $12, comma, 400 shirts, right? All right, so with that in mind, we have 2 points, and if we know it's a linear equation, that's all it takes to come up with the equation by using the point-slope formula, right? And the point-slope formula simply says that we have to first determine the slope. Once we have the slope, we can use that slope and another point to fill it into the formula to come up with the actual formula we need. So let's do that by first finding the slope, right? All right, so the slope is essentially, remember, the change in y over the change in x. So we're going to just start by saying 480 minus 400, and then keeping that same pattern, 10 minus 12, right? Okay, so 480 minus 400 leaves you with 80, and then 10 minus 12 is a negative 2, and negative 2 goes into 80 negative 40 times. So your slope is negative 40. Now, if you know that's your slope, you can then take that slope and plug it into the point slope formula over here in the position where m is, right? So we'll say y minus y1. So let's make y1 480, right? In other words, the y coordinate for the first point is equal to m being negative 40, and then that'll be times x minus x1. Well, we took 480 to be our first y coordinate. That means 10 will be our first x coordinate, right? We have to work with the values from the same point. All right, from there we have y minus 480 is equal to negative 40 times x, which is negative 40x, right? And then negative 40 times negative 10 is a positive, and then 4 times 1 is 4, carry the 2 zeros, you get 400. Now from here, if we solve for y, we'll end up having y, move the 480 to the side, so we'll have equals to negative 40x plus 400 plus 480. Remember, when that 480 goes across the equal sign, it changes the sign to a positive number, right? So we end up with y is equal to negative 40x. 400 plus 480 is 880. Okay, so that's your equation. Now this equation is referred to as a demand equation. And the reason why it's referred to as a demand equation is because the x here can actually be substituted out for the value p. And y is basically the number of shirts that are demanded, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let's change the name of the function here a little, or change the notation in the function a little bit. All right, let's go ahead and change the y to d then. So d for demand, and that'll be equal to negative 40, and let's change x to p, right? And then plus 880. All right, so that's our function. Let's use the function then in part B. Okay, so I've written the equation as d of p, right? Because it's a function of p, and so d of p, in other words, the number of shirts demanded at price p, right? And for part B, it says how many shirts would be sold at a price of $15 per week. So basically what they're saying is plug 15 into p, because p represents price, right? So d of p, in this case, will be negative 40p plus 880, and then d evaluated at $15 will be d of 15, and we'll have minus 40 times 15 plus 880. Now 4 times 15 is 60, carry the extra 0, and then plus 880, and you get the answer finally 280. So the demand for shirts that are priced at $15 is 280 shirts per week. So basically the store would be able to sell about 280 shirts per week if they priced them at $15 each. Now they didn't ask us for this, but just to kind of mention this, what would be the amount of money made? That's called the revenue that's made. What would be the revenue if you sold 280 shirts at $15 each? Well, you'd have 280 times 15. That's what you have to work out, right? And that means you'd make roughly $4,200 off of the shirts.